Oh hi. Sri Lanka. The state in the southern Asia, on the island of the same name at the southeast coast of Hindustan. Since the Portuguese invasion until 1972 in the European languages the country was called Ceylon. In translation from Sanskrit Sri Lanka. Denise, blessed earth, means. In the ancient times Sri Lanka was known to travelers under different names. According to the historical poem, Makavamsa, the legendary Saravich of Vijay called the island Tambapanian. That means copper-colored hands, or the copper-colored earth. Because at his colleagues' hands were painted by the red soil of the island. In Hindu mythology, in particular in Ramayana, the island is mentioned as Lanka. Island. The Tamil term Elam was used for designation of all island in Sangamski literature. Ancient Greek geographers called the island of Taprobane, or Taprobane, from the word Tambapani. Persians and Arabs called the island of Sarandab, from Sarantiva or to Simhaldavip. The Portuguese who occupied the island in 1505 gave him the name Sela, which was transliterated into English as Ceylon. As the British colony, the island was known as Ceylon, and in 1948 achieved independence as the Dominion of Ceylon. Republic of Sri Lanka. It was officially accepted as the name of the country in the new Constitution of 1972, and it is changed on the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka in the Constitution of 1978. The official capital since 1982. Sri Jayawardapura Kot. A residence of Parliament and Supreme Court. The former official and actual capital, Colombo. A residence of the government, residence of the President. The island of Sri Lanka is located in the southern Asia. It is a little to the east of the southernmost tip of Hindustan, and is washed by waters of the Lakshadweep Sea, the Indian Ocean and Bay of Bengal. It is separated from Hindustan by the Gulf of Mannar and Epoch Strait. So-called Adam's Bridge, a shallow in Epoch Strait, once completely connected Sri Lanka to the continent, but, according to chronicles, about 1481 was destroyed by an earthquake. Extreme southern and western extremities, the Cape Tundra and the Cape Dach Bay. The 25th in area island in the world and the third in this indicator in the Indian Ocean. The most part of the territory is occupied by coastal lowlands. Mountains are located in the central part of the country. The highest top Mr. Paduratalagala, 2524 m. Other known top, Adams Peak, 2243 m. The flat rivers, the short, mountain rivers have high hydroenergy potential. The largest rivers: Nakaveli, Ganges, Kalani, Kalu, Rubiara. The climate is subequatorial monsoonal. The northeast monsoon lasts from October to March, southwest from June to October. In Sri Lanka, very different animal and flora. From 450 bird species which are found on the island, representatives more than 250 types are its constant inhabitants. From them 24 meet only in Sri Lanka. Migratory birds fly on the island on a wintering from Siberia, Europe, Scandinavia. In March-April, during migration, it is possible to observe a huge variety of butterflies whom there are on the island more than 240 types. On the island 91 species of mammals among whom there are wild boars, jackals, wild buffalo, several species of deer, bears, porcupines, foxes, monkeys and elephants live. At the beginning of the 19th century in the territory of Sri Lanka there were more than 30,000 elephants. By 2010 elephants in Sri Lanka there were about 6,000 individuals. In reservoirs of Sri Lanka there are 50 species of freshwater fishes from whom 17 were delivered by British in the 19th century. From 38 amphibians 16 are unique. The island abounds with reptiles. 171 look. Among which there are 2 species of crocodiles. Marsh crocodile and Grebnisty crocodile. A star-shaped turtle, the only overland turtle of the island. 5 species of sea turtles are now protected by the law. From 83 species of snakes only 5 are poisonous. On the island there are about 1,300 plant species, from them 25% blossoming. 750 species of officinal herbs, about 150 types of orchids and ferns. In the territory of Sri Lanka, despite dense population, 12 national parks, 3 reserves and 51 reservations which occupy 14% of the territory of the island are located. Among them there is Minaria, Sinkaradza, Bundala, Vilpatu, Vastamuva, Udavalava, Yala and Tuyulpat. Population minus 21.3 million people. Assessment for July 2009. According to the average forecast, the population of the country will make by 2100 19.5 million people. Annual gain minus 0.73%. Birth rate minus 17.3 on 1,000 people. Fertility minus 1.99 births on the woman. Mortality minus 6.1 for 1,000. Emigration minus 1. 1 for 1,000. Infantile mortality minus 18.5 for 1,000. Average life expectancy is 73 years at men, 77 years at women. The Sinhalese make 74.88%, Tamils minus 11.2% of the population, mainly in northern and east areas. Also Lankan Moors. Ilarakala descendants of Arabs. Minus 9.2% Burghers. Descendants from mixed marriages with Europeans. About 0.3% Veda. Descendants of the most ancient population of the island. About 1,000 man live. 70.19% of the population. Generally the Sinhaleses. Profess the Buddhism. Generally Theravada. 12.61% Hinduism. Tamils. 9.71% Islam, 7.45% Christianity. 82% of Christians, Catholics, the others, Anglicans and other Protestants. Literacy minus 93.2%. Men minus 94%, women minus 92%. 2017. The Sinhalese and Tamil languages are official and national languages of Sri Lanka. According to the Constitution of Sri Lanka, English has the official status of language of interethnic communication. In the administrative relation, the country is divided into 9 provinces, which in turn are subdivided into 25 districts. The most ancient inhabitants of the island, ancestors of Ved, treated Australovedoidni race. The Sinhalese arrived to the island about the 6th century BB from northern India. In the 3rd century BB on the island the Buddhism gets. In the 13th centuries on the island there were large Sinhalese kingdoms with the capitals at first in Anuradhapura, then in Polonnaruwa. Also rock Sigiriya frescoes. The Lion's Rock in the central part of the island belong to this period. After Polonnaruwa Polonnarovsky dynasty of the Sinhalese monarchs, the capital was several times transferred, and by the time of arrival of Portuguese on the island in the 16th century she was in Kot. In 1506 the Portuguese seafarer opened for Lawrence de Almeida the island Ceylon, and within the 16th century Portuguese occupied the coast of the island. In the 17th century of Portuguese Dutches replaced. However, and during the Dutch domination internal areas kept independence. Since 1795 expansion of the British who squeezed out Dutches from Ceylon began. In 1796 the Dutch possession were completely won by British. In 1802 the British Ceylon was announced by colony of the British Empire. The last Sinhalese kingdom, with the capital in Kandy, was liquidated by British in 1815. All territory of the island became colony of the British Empire. In 1948 the country gained independence under the name Dominion of Ceylon, remaining the Dominion of Great Britain. In 1971 the youth revolt under the direction of the People's Front of the Release organized by Rock'n'Vids failed. In 1972 the country was renamed into Sri Lanka and stopped being the Dominion, having remained the Dick of the British Commonwealth of Nations. In December 2004 the country strongly suffered from the tsunami caused by an earthquake in coast of Sumatra. More than 38,000 people died, 6,000 were missing, hundreds of thousands were homeless. Substantial financial aid was provided to Sri Lanka. Actively the program for an economic recovery is implemented. It is planned to recreate 19 cities destroyed by a tsunami. Since 1983 in Sri Lanka there was a civil war between the government and the guerrilla organization, Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. After a set of failures and several truces, government forces managed to win a victory over Tigers. On May 18, 2009 the 50,000 group of government troops of Sri Lanka finished the last operation in civil war. In the north of the country, on the peninsula Jaffna, after capture Mullaitivu the main forces of the Tamil separatists were surrounded and liquidated. For a week still separate clashes with the separate groups of separatists disappearing in the jungle continued, but government forces established strong control over the last center of resistance. During operation the permanent leader of separatists Valupale Prabhakaran was killed. The International Group on Human Rights in the report noted existence during the period from 2006 to 2012 of 75 cases of violence over women and men known to her who were detained in connection with their possible participation in Tigers. In April 2013 about 3,000 actors of the Tamil cinema of India organized a one-day hunger strike in support of the Tamil minority of Sri Lanka. He wanted to achieve punishment of the persons who committed war crimes at the end of the civil war and holding a referendum in Sri Lanka on Tamil. The head of state, the president elected for 6 years by a universal direct vote. The president is the head of the government and the supreme commander. The president before parliament. To him the impeachment can be announced if he is supported 2/3 parliaments and is approved by the Supreme Court. The president forms the government also responsible before parliament. The assistant to the president, the prime minister, the head of ruling party. The last elections took place in 2015. Maithripala Sirisena was elected to them the president of the country. Parliament of Sri Lanka unicameral, 225 places. Members of Parliament are elected general by direct vote on the basis of a proportional system, with the following feature. The party which received a majority of votes in any district receives an occasional seat. Only the Parliament can issue laws. The President has the right to postpone or cancel the session of Parliament, to dismiss Parliament if he worked, at least, 1 year. The last elections took place in April 2004. The victory at them was won by National Alliance, the Party for Freedom of Sri Lanka, and the left-wing Sinhalese Nationalist Party of Janatha Vimukti Peraman. Feature of political life of the island since 1958 years is sharp rivalry within parliamentary democracy. Two clans, Senanayake Jayawardene. The United National Party. English. Russian is associated with him, ONP. And Bandaranate Kamaratanga. With him is associated the Party for Freedom of Sri Lanka, PLELE. In total governing the country 45 years. There are also Communist Party of Sri Lanka and the People's Liberation Front. Janatha Vimukti Peraman, which is under strong influence of Maoism, and also a large number of Trotskyist parties, Lanka Samasamadha Party, the Left Liberating Front Nava Samasamadha Party, the Socialist Party of Sri Lanka, the Socialist Equality Party, the United Socialist Party, the Revolutionary Labour Party around. On elections on January 27, 2010, Mahinda Rajapaksa was re-elected as the president of the country, having gained 59%, having overcome the candidate of the joint opposition Sarah Fonseca. On February 9, 2010, he issued the decree on dissolution of parliament and disposed about arrest of the leader of opposition Sarath Fonseca. In September 2010, a military court sentenced Fonseca to 3 years of imprisonment for corruption. Having taken, thus, a sharp course towards withdrawal from democracy towards authoritarianism. At the same time, under the leadership of Mahinda Rajapaksa, a number of large infrastructure projects, such as was carried out. Naidampura Mahinda Rajapaksa Port. Naidampura Mahinda Rajapaksa. Hydroenergy projects and also coal power plants in Sampur and Noraklay. Due to the increasing needs of energy consumption for the country, the solar power station of Hambantot was constructed. By 2010, poverty level in Sri Lanka decreased to 8.9%, at the same time in 2006 he made 15.2%. During this period, Sri Lanka also rose in the Index of Human Development, however the government came under criticism fire because of the high level of corruption. Sri Lanka took the 79th place among 174 countries in the corruption index made by Transparency International. In November 2014, because signs of decrease in public and state support began to appear, Mahinda Rajapaksa decides to hold early elections. The Secretary-General of ruling Party of Freedom of Sri Lanka and Minister of Health Maithripala Sirisena proposed the candidature as the opponent President Mahinda Rajapaksa at the upcoming presidential elections. He was supported by the former President Chandrika Kumaratunga and the leader of the United National Party Ranil Wickremesinghe, Chitkikahela Urumayan and also Siraj Fonseca. In the performance he promised to finish gangsterism, plunders, crimes, a drug mafia, nepotism and corruption. The largest Muslim party of Sri Lanka left the operating government and also supported Maithripala Sirisena. As a result of presidential elections in January 2015, Maithripala Sirisena won, having collected 51.28% of votes. He ousted the Chief of Justice Makhan Perisan and launched a large-scale campaign for fight against corruption and abuses of the previous government and the president, which lasts to this day. Also, the president pardoned opponents of the previous president, namely the former leader of opposition Siraj Fonseca. The new president headed for peaceful coexistence and partnership with all countries of the region. On the island, about 10% of all tea in the world are produced. That makes more than 305,000 tons per year. The third place, after India and the People's Republic of China. In economy, production of natural rubber, cinnamon is also developed. Extraction of gemstones, Ratnapura. As of 2008, agriculture gives 20% of export, 93% in 1972. The main industry, textile, 63% of export. However, Sri Lanka was strongly struck by cancellation by the developed countries in January 2005 of the quotas for import of clothes operating within the WTO. More than 30 years, which led to replacement of Lankan products of cheaper Chinese. The main economic center of the country and the largest port, Colombo. DDD growth about 5% a year. Sri Lanka takes the first place in the Southern Asia on DDD volume per capita. $4,300 in 2008. In 2018, the volume of foreign trade on export was $11.1 billion, on import of $18.7 billion, negative balance of foreign trade, $7.57 billion. The main part of export goods was made by textiles, including clothes. $5.61 billion. And products of agriculture, including tea. $858 million. And also products from rubber and rubber. $588 million. Main partners in export. USA, 24.2%. India, 7.76%. Germany, 7.38%. Great Britain, 7.26%. Italy, 4.44%. In import machines and the equipment, $2.88 billion. Textile raw materials and semi-finished products, $2.73 billion. Oil products, $2.3 billion. And also cars, metals and chemical goods prevail. Main partners in import: India, 22.7%. People's Republic of China, 22.6%. Singapore 9.26%. Japan 6.27%. Malaysia 3.78%. An escalating role in national economy is played by tourism, 9% of GDP in 2004. Seaside resorts. Moratuwa Hali. Historical sites of Kandy, Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, Sigiriya, the mountain resort of Nuvaralia enjoy popularity. Tourists visit also tea plantations, national parks and religious and historical monuments of the Buddhism, for example, the Temple of Tooth of Buddha in Kandy, the ancient capital of the island, where one of the most esteemed Buddhist shrines, Buddha's tooth, is stored. On Sri Lanka, as well as in all countries of the Southern Asia, the cricket enjoys traditional popularity. In 1996, the team of Sri Lanka won the World Cup. The main holiday in Sri Lanka, on February 4, the Independence Day. In addition, in the country a number of Buddhist, Muslim and Christian holidays is noted. The days off, except Saturday and Sunday, are days of a full moon, Hoi day intended for meditations. February 26, 1986, the star lotus was accepted as a national flower of Sri Lanka. In 2021 on Sri Lanka found the biggest in the world star-shaped sapphire. His weight is 510 kg. Cost is estimated more than at $200 million. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.